Good evening, everyone.
Good,
Go ahead. Good evening.
good evening, folks. My name is Cliff Purvis, former British Army Corporal.
And I'm Russ Denny, former British Army warrant officer. You can see we practiced that beforehand. Welcome to another episode of the Recce Report.
Right, Ross. Good evening to you.
Hey,
Yes,
mate.
folks, we
We
had
made it.
rehearsed that.
We had some teething problems tonight. Obviously, it's not that we've not done this 40 times before.
So what show are we on now? 41?
41, mate.
Ah, jeepers, and they said it wouldn't last. Right, ladies
I
and
know.
gentlemen, welcome to the Recce Report. It swings around ever so quickly, and it's also a pleasure and very humbling to get behind the mic and camera, or in front of the camera, behind the mic, and have a chat about all things to do with Scottish independence. As always, Ross, we have had a fairly busy month, and unfortunately, the fascistos are still dominating the press. We have had S&P conference has come and gone. We have had one particular party for independence seems to be in more disarray than ever before. Where do you want to start, buddy?
At the beginning, mate. Hopefully, yeah. I think you mentioned it. You mentioned it before. You know that the fascists who don't like to be called fascists are still dominating the airwaves. And I've said it so many times before. You know, the media are complicit. They're the ones that keep giving them the platform. You know, we spoke briefly before about for those history buffs among you, about the Battle of Cable Street, which was in the 1930s when Oswald Mosley and his British Union of Fascists wanted to walk down a particular road, and the people said no, that's not happening. And there was actually pitched battles, and they had to abandon the march. Nowadays they're invited onto BBC News.
Yep.
It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, it's given them every chance to voice off. It's to normalize what is not normal. Their way of going about things is not the way to do things. You know, it might have been the way to do things in 1930s Germany. It might have been the way that Mosley wanted to do things in the 1930s UK/England, because that's all they think about. For them, the UK is England. The other three countries are just to be used and thrown away. I just had a pop-up on my Facebook account there from a very good friend of mine, and it's to do with the mosque that was attacked in Hartlepool by far-right thugs. We're coming into the remembrance period where we quite rightly remember those that have sacrificed, made the ultimate sacrifice in times of conflict. Yeah, well, the mosque down in Hartlepool had contributed £25,000 to the British Legion through the sale of poppies, and also had spent roughly £25,000 on cooking for those in the Hartlepool area that are not so well off and needed assistance. That's a grand total. That's a fair, sizable chunk of money, both raised for the poppy appeal and also spent by the people that run the mosque. Are you aware? Is anybody aware out there of the far right thugs, the far right fascistos, the Nazis? Have they done any equivalent?
Well, they guarded some statues, mate.
Yeah.
They were under no threat.
Yeah.
I seen them at George Square a while back, and I was like, no one was threatening the statues in George Square.
Yeah, they put flags up on lampposts. Some people were trying to take them down. They got threatened in Edinburgh by a thug with a knife. Going to slit their throat. So what's Farage's answer to that? Because this is the type of people he is attracting. Yeah, whether he says for them to do it or not, he is the focal point. Him and his rancid racist ideas.
They're
not so long ago.
They dress it up they changed the language, but it's all coded to their followers. And your man Yaxley Lennon's the same. It's all about I'm only just saying. I mentioned before about your man Yaxley Lennon sent after there was a stabbing, wasn't there? In I should have had this ready, but there's a stabbing, and he tweeted Gary Neville to say, "What's the chances this is going to be a middle-aged white man, Gary Neville?" Spoiler alert, folks, it was a middle-aged white man.
Yes, it was. And if you go onto the veterans page, I think I posted something up about that last night. Was it last night or Sunday? Yeah, I did that on the veterans page last night. Yes, but that's it. The moment's then gone because Yaxley Lennon doesn't give a hoot what he says, right? He's getting money ploughed into him from let's face it, from Musk. Otherwise Musk would never have been part of that. What's it? Yaxley Lennon called the silent majority. They reckon there was 150,000 people there. Broken down to the total population of the UK, that works out roughly as a hard vacuum in physics. Yeah. So well done, Yaxley Lennon. You created a vacuum. We've had more on our parades up here with less population. But I'm being told that it doesn't count. So we're
I was going to say, mate, what we're seeing with the constant platforming of these people is that the traditional left of centre parties or party Labour is now dashing to the right because they think that's where the votes are. They're coming out and trying to be anti-immigration and control the borders and all this malarkey. And the truth is that all of this is a morass of the Tories making, because they stopped processing asylum claims. They shut down any legal safe routes. Asylum seekers are not illegal. So you can't call someone who's not had their application processed illegal. They're not illegal until it's been processed, it's been found not to be valid, and then they don't leave. That's when they become illegal. Turning up in the first place just makes you an asylum seeker. Not an illegal immigrant.
And migrants and immigrants have not been put up in hotels and paid for in hotels. Right, it's asylum seekers, totally different thing. Yet the press is quite happily calling it it's immigrants in these hotels. No, it's not. It's asylum seekers who under the European.
They're like, these people are being housed in 5-star hotels. Look, mate, if you've got 6 to a room, that's not a 5-star hotel anymore.
Exactly. Yeah.
If the pool's shut, the gym's shut, and you don't have a choice of menu, that's no longer a 5-star hotel, is it?
Having stayed in more than the share of hotels in this last year, one thing and another. Totally agree with you on that one. Yes. So it's all this wordage that gets twisted. So it's now the whole thing has become blurred. What these thugs, what these Nazis, what these racist arseholes are doing are trying to marginalise the weak, those that can't defend themselves. Because remember, as an asylum seeker, you have no right to work. You have no rights to vote. You have got very little rights. We have, as a member or a signatory to the European Convention on Human Rights, and also under the Human Rights Act 1998 in the UK, we have a right to shelter them, to feed them, and make sure that their welfare is taken care of. Right? That is basic common humanity, and most of the major religions in the world will relate to that. But suddenly, because these people have a different color of skin, a different religion, and the press has got hold of that, and some fascist, well, I've already mentioned the word, the fascists have got a grip of that, they turn it on their head and say these people are a threat. They keep mentioning about how many of these people have committed horrendous crimes. Well, how many white people have committed those same horrendous crimes in the same period of time?
In a higher proportion as well.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
And you mentioned there, mate, that we're coming up to the poppy period, to the Remembrance Month next month, and you're going to see that the self-proclaimed poppy police out in force, the ones that that start whinging because someone on TV is not wearing a poppy on Newsnight or whatever it is. And these are the people that we were fighting against. Not we, but the country was fighting against in 1914, 1918, 1939, 1945. I heard someone say, one of the right wingers say, the people that stormed the beaches at Normandy, they weren't Antifa. Really, they were fighting against fascist tyranny, but they weren't anti-fascist. Have you thought that one through, really? And suddenly they're like, why would you be against anti-fascists unless you're a fascist?
Yes. Yeah. And they come out with, I'm not really a fascist, I just believe in that one subject or that one point. I know that makes you a fascist. And I know you can explain that more beautifully than I can.
Yeah. I'm not a fascist. I just want an authoritarian government that tells me what I can do and what I can't do.
Yeah. And about that, we're going to withdraw from the EHCR, the European Convention on Human Rights. But I'm still to hear, and please, if there's any of these fascists logging in on tonight's show, please drop us a line. We've got the chat deck going on. Well, I can see it on the right of my screen there. Please drop us a line. What is Farage going to put in place prior to dissolving the Human Rights Act of 1998, the Scotland Act of 1998, the Welsh Act of 2017, the Northern Irish Act of 2017, and the Good Friday Agreement? What is Farage's plan? Please tell me.
Yeah, it is, and they say it's the ECHR that is stopping us from, dealing with the immigrant problem. Like, well, maybe there's a reason for that, mate. Maybe your solution to the immigrant problem is not conducive to human rights. Maybe there's a reason for that. Maybe because you want to do things that are actually abhorrent and against all decency. And the other thing that we spoke about offline, mate, was that when you do these things, for the purpose of addressing this particular problem that they shout about, that law is then rarely used just for that purpose.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because if they then decide they get to choose who has human rights, which includes the right to a fair trial, the right not to be tortured, what's to stop them saying that you are one of the groups now that don't deserve human rights?
Yep. Yep. There's absolutely nothing to prevent it. And that's why it's scary. This is the whole thing. As far as mentioned withdrawal from the European Convention on Human Rights, that's where I got onto the research. I was going on figuring out what is his mechanism for doing that.
Well, you're seeing it out in the States, mate. They're just rounding up people with brown skin and sending people who have done absolutely nothing wrong. In fact, they're going to court at the moment because of the guy they sent to Venezuela, and they had to return him because he was completely innocent and was either a legal U.S. citizen or had legal right to reside there. They're going through court at the minute because he was the guy they sent to Venezuela and then said, "Oh, we can't get him back."
Yeah.
But then they had to bring him back. And that's what Farage wants. Farage wants the jackbooted thugs. He wants the secret police. He wants informers. That's not where we want to go, mate.
No.
And for people that say it couldn't occur here, trust me, we've been in the army long enough and been in some places around the world to know that it can happen anywhere.
Yes, absolutely. It doesn't take much. All right. I mean, traditionally we have been fortunate in this archipelago that we have had a little bit of water separating us from mainland Europe, but in this day and age that doesn't matter now because our airways are flooded with the message. We have from the other side of the pond we get Musk, and his twisted ideas. Right, Russ, you want to read that one out, buddy?
I do. Hash is saying there, John Swinney announced a scheme to invite those with permission to remain in the UK, I'm assuming, to come to Scotland to work in social care. Good scheme. We absolutely need people to come and do that. The social care sector in particular has been hammered hard by this. And also, as it's been said many times in the past, we have an aging population. We need people to come in and work and earn money and pay taxes. And that's another good point. If you look into it, the HMRC statistics will show you that immigrants, people not asylum seekers, but immigrants pay way more taxes as a population than they take out. So they are propping up the UK economy by some margin.
Because traditionally they've come here to better their lives, and they value work, and they will do the jobs that your average white person doesn't want to do. Let's be bloody honest here. And they get stuck in about it. And you're right. My father-in-law's is in care at the moment. Right?
That's the hypocrite, mate. He's got a German wife. His kids have got dual nationality. He's not worried. He can bog off to Europe whenever he feels like it. He's not.
They keep mentioning that the biggest threat to the UK exchequer is the immigration issue, right? Or is asylum seekers staying in hotels, to get it more correctly. Yeah, it's not. It's illegal drug trade.
It is. But and tax evasion.
Yeah.
Or tax avoidance.
Avoidance,
Whichever one's the legal one.
Tax avoidance is the legal one. Evasion allegedly gets you in the neck, especially if you're like horses.
And somebody pointed out, there's a question asked on one of the shows. These millionaires and billionaires, they'll leave the country. And the guy that was on, I'm sure it was the Green leader, he said, "What? The Duke of Westminster is going to move all of Westminster overseas so that he doesn't have to pay tax on his assets? How is that going to happen?"
Yeah.
How's that going to happen? He can't move overseas.
Yeah.
He owns all that crap.
But then the government has the power. The UK government does have the power to seize assets. To recoup the money that people are due them. They use that quite often when companies fail to pay the right tax, or individuals fail to pay the right tax. Yeah.
I think the Green policy was I think 1% on anyone earning over £1 million.
Right.
So assets. So 1% a year. And over 10 million or 100 million was 2%.
Yeah.
Which would bring in something like £51 billion a year into the exchequer, which dwarfs anything that is paid in benefits or given to asylum seekers.
Yeah. I noticed also that the manifesto that came out of the Fascistos just at the run up to all the local elections. Local elections that were cracking off there. They published this big.
His finger on the pulse. Tell me the name of the Green leader now, Zach Polanski.
Yeah,
he's very eloquent. He absolutely is.
Yes,
I don't know anything about his background. I'm sure that the right have dug into it, and he probably kicked a puppy when he was 12 or something. That'll come out.
I like him. I like his style. I really do. And maybe that's a breed of politician that we need in the UK. At this moment in time, we certainly need it in Scotland. We need someone with that capability.
It does, so we need a balanced media to do that, mate. When you have Fiona Bruce on Question Time, and they see it on the reporters, they will constantly shut down. They'll ask a question of the pro-independence guest, and then just constantly talk over them, and then give the right winger the freedom to just spout all the crap of the day.
Of course it is, because the chief executives, or whatever they're called, of the BBC are appointed by the current government. And then the regional people are appointed by either the person appointed by the government or appointed by the government. So saying the BBC is not political is a heap of nonsense. Of course it's political.
I think Willie Findlay's comment here brings us on to the next point. He said, independence for Scotland, that is the way to break away from Westminster. So I think it's a good chance to talk about the SNP conference, mate, and the roadmap to independence.
It was reassuring that they're still thinking about it. I didn't see anything from that conference that made me sit up. Right? We know the reasons why we should be independent. Yes, okay, there's a lovely Q&A session posted up. If any of you haven't seen it, bear with me a second. Titled A Fresh Start with Independence, Questions and Answers. It's produced by the Scottish Government. It'll be on the Scottish Government website. And it's got a series of questions and answers about all the topics to do with independence. And it's a good way of throwing things back at the naysayers, and also reassuring those maybe still sitting on the fence. But I didn't hear any speech. I didn't hear any comments from the leadership that made me sit up and say, right, somebody's got this by the horns now, let's go for it. But we know what...
So I say they are talking about having an umbrella organisation to run the independence campaign, so that the SNP, are not the main ones. They get to step back. They focus on politics, and the campaigners do it. We were talking about this before as well. We're constantly hearing, aren't we? Now is not the time, or you had your say back in 2014. And with the message the question that we need to keep asking now from these people that say, no, I don't agree. So, okay, given that international law and the Human Rights Act say that everyone has the right to determine the best form of government for their needs, what is the method? What is the route? What is the route? Yeah, okay, you don't want Scotland to go independent, that's fine. But what is the route for them to explore that? And don't let them wriggle out of it.
Yep.
Don't let them wriggle out. They can't say, oh, well, you had your say, blah, blah, blah. Referring to my last question, what is the route? We should be asking every single politician on every single news programme, on every single chat show, on every single debate night, what is the route?
Yeah.
And don't be distracted when they start waffling on about, the central bank or the pound or the oil or whatever it is that they want to throw it as a distraction, the dead cat on the table, if you like.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Russ. I mean, as a supposed democratic union of four nations. Yeah. I struggle with that.
Northern Ireland has a time frame embedded in it, which is every 7 years they can do it.
It's 7 years, absolutely. Yeah, not 3 or 4 times and that's it, or once and that's it. It's every 7 years. Yeah, but we don't, for some reason. We don't. It's obvious why we don't. They rely on what Scotland has to keep them ticking over.
Scotland has had one referendum on independence in 300 years, mate.
Yeah.
That is, we've got some catching up to do.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And they don't want it, because the lies that they told everybody in 2014 have come home to roost. We know what it's like now. Yeah, we know what they're going to be lying about. They can't come out and say the same things again, because they know no one's going to believe them. We have got thousands upon thousands of people who are now 16 and older that have had their lives ruined because of the impact of consecutive Tory governments and a Westminster organisation that cares about self-promotion. They don't give a crap about anything outside the M25 unless you happen to own a big estate.
Sorry, both Hash and Wolf making the same point here, that for Northern Ireland, it's still in the hands of the Secretary of State for Northern Ireland, and that possibly they still need the agreement of the Secretary of State. You're probably right. The thing is, though, Northern Ireland has a particularly unique history since the late 1960s. Yeah. And I think they've maybe got a big bargaining chip to say, maybe you better let us have this referendum, because we do not want to go back to those days. Yeah.
Well, that's the other thing with Farage. Yeah, because the EHCR is embedded in the Good Friday Agreement. Yeah, if he pulls us, destroys that. Yeah, what's he want? Northern Ireland to erupt again, because that's what is. Again, he wouldn't bother about that. Because he'd send the troops over to get them sorted out. Because he's not the one with the rifle, despite what he was saying. He was grab his rifle and stand by the beach like some sad character. Dad's army.
He doesn't actually want it, mate. He just likes the limelight. He likes the money, the attention that brings him. He likes the ego boost. I think he would actually brick it, if he ended up in any position of real power. And that's what he did. He did it in European Parliament. He does it in Westminster. It's hot here. And the media just give him it. If this was 1930s, mate, they'd have Oswald Mosley on every edition of Question Time, singing Hitler's praises. calling everyone that doesn't support them, left wing namby pamby. It's interesting. America, the left wing has gone from these muesli munching, sandal wearing lefties to apparently, rabid, bloodthirsty killers.
Yes.
In the right wing rhetoric. So I'm not sure how you can combine the two. How you can.
That's a hell of a turnaround in a short space of time. I mean.
Yeah.
What I just seen a comment up there about.
We're weak snowflakes on one hand and rabid monster killer people on the other. Make up your mind.
Yeah, but again, Trump and his administration are doing exactly the same, or Farage, I should say, is copying exactly the same as what the Trump administration is. I mean, the administration in the White House are all upset and pouting all over the place because Trump didn't get the Nobel Peace Prize.
Yeah. For a nomination that closed before he was president.
Yes, and I nearly cried into my coffee when reading that. I was laughing so much.
Yeah, apparently the nominations closed at the end of 2024 for the 25 Nobel Peace Prize.
Right.
I suppose he could be in the running for it next year. Do they do it every year? Is it every year the Nobel Peace Prize? I don't know. I don't know that much about it.
Yeah, it's a yearly thing. Yeah.
So I suppose he could be up for it next year when it's all sweetness and light in Palestine, clearly, because that's what he's decided. What we should say.
We'll see. We know, Russ, both of us have been through ceasefires before. Yeah, and we know how long they tend to last.
Absolutely, and sometimes it's not even an hour.
Yeah, I think the quickest one in Bosnia that I experienced was about 12 minutes or so, literally 12 minutes or so.
The ceasefire, woo!
Yeah, bing, 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 bing.
Don't change my mind.
Yeah. Right, I just noticed a comment pop up from one of the guys about a mention of the football. Apparently, Germany's playing tonight. Northern Ireland versus Germany tonight. One thing, guys, ladies, gentlemen, that we cannot promise in an independent Scotland is the standard of the Scottish football team will improve. I know we've won last two games, but if anybody has watched the last two games, they know exactly where I'm coming from. Sometimes the results aren't everything, but again, they are when you're in a result.
Somebody asked a question, and I think Hashby just mentioned it there again. Apparently, Labour are claiming to have brought the Norwegian frigate orders to the Clyde. I don't know, mate. I've been head up my buttocks the whole week, so I don't know anything about it. We might have to look into that and get back to you next time.
Yeah, it's been on the go for a while. It was announced a while back about this. BAE Systems would have won that contract. Yeah, because they would have tendered to the Norwegian government. This is the way to go forward. Come to us. Don't go down to France where they've got their modular system. Come to us. We'll build the frigates for you. Labour government will claim anything.
Yep. Yeah, we need to. Oh, definitely, they will. We need to jump on this comment before we go, mate. We've got 1 minute left. From Alan, who's saying the SNP leadership at their conference once again told us that they will never support the genuine independence movement. Gravy, what devolution is to a man and woman. Interesting. Who are the genuine independence movement then?
Yeah. Simple question. Yeah.
I'll just leave that hanging there, and maybe we can get back to us. Maybe we can get back to us next month because we've got about 40 seconds left on this broadcast.
Okay. Where did tonight's show disappear?
Sorry?
Russ, we've still got about 6 things on a running order here.
No, we could go on longer, mate. I know.
Yeah.
Kevin might be upset though if we eat up all his bandwidth.
Right. Okay.
I'd like to think I'm part of the genuine independence movement, Alan.
Apparently do you live on a rock? No, I don't live under a rock. I live in reality. When someone tries to take what me and Russ and other people are doing away from being the genuine independence movement, then I suggest that it's yourself that is working to cause division. It is yourself that is working to cause a divide within that independence movement. So just where are you getting paid from?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah,
Hashpriest suggesting I think that Alan is an Alba supporter. So he'd be one of the, I think, the 0.4% that vote for Alba.
Yeah.
So we'll
You
see
mean
how
that party
goes.
that party that has never had an elected member at any level of government? Yeah.
Yeah. And now have no MSPs.
Yes. Any member, yeah, Russ, let's not end on that. Let's end on a higher note. Okay. Because right, because it's there's lots and lots for us to be happy about. Right.
Yeah.
The fact that we've still got access to the airways. There's still a very strong independence movement, a belief in Scottish independence within our fantastic country. The fact that we have not knuckled under the fascistos, that we are still promoting what we have always had in Scotland, which is that inclusiveness, the willingness to accept those less fortunate than ourselves into our communities so they can get themselves established, so they can feel worthwhile and feed back into the Scottish system. That is what we have got to look forward to. Yeah. Yes, and I've been on the high horse most of tonight.
You have, mate. Cliff, we are out of time, buddy.
Yes,
we have. We went a little over. A spirited show tonight. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for all your questions. We will see you next month. I think the 10th of November we'll be in.
All right. Is it? Will it be the 10th? Yeah, it will be the 10th.
Yeah, so that will be Remembrance Sunday this year is the 9th, so it's going to be after that and before actual Remembrance Day on the 11th. So everyone, please have a lovely rest of the month. And remember, Cliff.
Yeah, our future is bright. Independence is so right.
Sir Alba. Take care, everyone.